The purple bruise on Beulah Carter's neck looked like a question mark. She stood in Kang Minjun's private bathroom, silk blouse collar raised, fingers trembling as she tried to position the fabric just right. The expensive soap smell, bergamot and cedar, the kind that cost more than her first apartment's rent, couldn't quite mask the drugstore perfume she'd sprayed on that morning. Fluorescent lights stripped away any illusion of rest, highlighting the dark circles under her brown eyes like accusations. Thunder rolled outside the 42nd floor window, rattling glass, matching the erratic pulse in her throat. 3 years of playing invisible, she thought, adjusting the collar one more time. 3 years of being furniture, and one mark makes me seen. The bathroom door opened without a knock. Minjun filled the doorframe, 6 feet of tailored menace in a charcoal suit that probably cost what she made in a month. His jaw was set in that way that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. Usually, it wasn't her. Their eyes met in the mirror. His gaze dropped to her hands, still clutching her collar. The silence stretched like a blade being drawn slowly from its sheath. The Henderson contracts need, she started, her executive secretary voice crisp and professional. Show me. 2 words. Quiet as a grave. Beulah's stomach dropped. Sir, your neck. Minjun's accent thickened the way it always did when he was barely holding on to control. Show me. She could have lied. Should have lied. Instead, something reckless and exhausted made her drop her hands. Let the collar fall. Let him see the purple-blue mark Nathaniel had left Saturday night, sucking and biting like he was branding her, claiming territory. Minjun's face didn't change. That was worse than anger. His eyes, dark, unreadable, fixed on the bruise for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Who? The word came out barely above a whisper. Beulah lifted her chin. Someone who wanted to leave a mark. The air in the bathroom compressed. Minjun took 1 step forward. Just one. But Beulah's back hit the marble counter, and suddenly the space that had felt professional for 3 years felt suffocating, dangerous, electric. His hand rose. For a wild second, she thought he might touch her neck, trace the bruise, reclaim something he'd thrown away 3 years ago in a Vancouver hotel room. Instead, his fist slammed into the marble counter beside her hip. The crack echoed like a gunshot. A spiderweb fracture bloomed across expensive Italian stone. Get out. Minjun's voice was deadly calm now, the kind of calm that preceded blood. Now, before I do something we'll both regret. Beulah didn't run. She walked. Spine straight, heels clicking against tile, like she wasn't falling apart inside. Behind her, she heard glass shatter. Minjun's reflection in the hallway mirror showed him gripping the sink, shoulders heaving, looking at the broken counter like it held answers. She touched the bruise on her neck. It still throbbed. For the first time in 3 years, Kang Minjun had really looked at her. And she had no idea if that was going to save her or destroy her. If you're already hooked, hit that like button and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Because what happens next? Let's just say you won't see it coming. Beulah's hands shook as she filed the Henderson contracts 2 hours later. Her desk sat outside Minjun's office like a checkpoint, all glass and chrome, and the kind of aggressive minimalism that screamed money. Seattle's skyline pressed against floor-to-ceiling windows, gray sky bleeding into gray water, the Space Needle a lonely punctuation mark in all that emptiness. She'd sat at this desk for 3 years. Translated Minjun's broken English into polished business correspondence. Turned his violent impulses into legitimate real estate deals. Made herself indispensable because invisible wasn't enough. She needed to be irreplaceable. The memory hit without permission. Vancouver. 3 years ago. The hotel suite after closing the $40 million casino deal. Adrenaline and expensive whiskey. Minjun's tie on the floor. His hands rough, calloused, nothing like his expensive suits suggested, tracing her collarbone like he was reading Braille. Korean words whispered against her throat, her temple, her mouth. She didn't understand the language, but she understood the sound, desperate, hungry, like he'd been starving. For 6 hours, Beulah Carter had felt wanted. Not needed. Not useful. Wanted. His fingers had mapped every scar on her south side body, the burn mark from the radiator in her childhood apartment, the surgical scar from the appendicitis she'd ignored for 3 days because she couldn't afford the ER, The raised keloid on her shoulder from where her mother had accidentally knocked over a pot of boiling water during a diabetic episode. Minjun had kissed each one, made her feel like her damage was holy. The morning after, she'd woken to sunlight and the smell of hotel coffee. Minjun stood by the window, already dressed, looking at Puget Sound like it held battle plans. She'd reached for him. Minjun. This was a mistake. His voice had been flat. Empty. He didn't turn around. Get dressed. We have a 10 a.m. flight. That was it. No explanation. No eye contact. Just his back, rigid as a wall, while she pulled on yesterday's clothes with hands that suddenly remembered how to shake. For 3 years since, he'd treated her like furniture. Efficient. Professional. Cold. Beulah's phone buzzed, dragging her back to the present. Nathaniel, dinner tonight? I promise actual conversation. She stared at the message. Nathaniel Pierce, Minjun's contract lawyer, white, sophisticated, patient. He'd pursued her for 8 months before she'd finally said yes 6 months ago. He remembered her coffee order, asked about her dreams, laughed at her jokes, did all the things Minjun had never done after Vancouver. This is what normal looks like, she reminded herself. Safe, uncomplicated. A man who doesn't make you feel like you're drowning and flying at the same time. So why did texting him back feel like infidelity? You gonna tell her the truth or keep pretending you don't care? Beulah looked up. Jackson, Minjun's head of security, built like a linebacker, surprisingly gentle eyes, stood by the water cooler, talking low into his phone. But his gaze was fixed on Minjun's closed office door. Through the frosted glass, she could see Minjun's silhouette, motionless at his desk. A statue of self-control. My uncle made his position clear. Minjun's voice carried through the door, muffled but audible. She's alive because I don't care. Beulah's chest tightened. She had no context for that sentence, no idea who he was talking to, but her body reacted anyway, old hurt rising like floodwater. She's alive because I don't care. Proof. Finally. That Vancouver had meant nothing. That she'd been a convenient body in a hotel room, and Minjun's coldness wasn't protection or fear, it was honest indifference. Her phone buzzed again. Nathaniel, I'm thinking that Italian place you mentioned. The one with the tiramisu that made you close your eyes when you ate it. He remembered. Nathaniel always remembered. Beulah typed back, 7 o'clock. I'll meet you there. She hit send before she could second guess it. Through the frosted glass, Minjun's silhouette moved. Stood. His shadow stretched long across her desk like an accusation. Beulah gathered her bag, her coat, her carefully constructed armor. Clocked out early for the first time in 3 years, a small rebellion that felt enormous. As she waited for the elevator, she caught her reflection in the polished steel doors. The bruise on her neck had darkened. Unmistakable now. A brand. The elevator opened. She stepped inside. Behind her, she heard Minjun's office door open. Felt his eyes on her back. The doors closed before she could turn around. In Nathaniel's car 3 hours later, Beulah forced a smile as he talked about his day. He reached over, squeezed her hand, his touch warm and easy and safe. This is what normal feels like, she told herself again. But in her chest, something whispered, so why does it feel like betrayal? She touched the bruise on her neck. It still throbbed. Outside the car window, Seattle blurred into rain and neon. Somewhere behind them, in a 42nd floor office, a man she'd loved for 3 years stood alone, staring at a cracked marble counter, wondering how long he could keep her alive by pretending she meant nothing. Neither of them knew they were already out of time. The next morning, Beulah arrived at work to find Minjun waiting at her desk. Not in his office. At her desk. Standing there like a storm system, a manila folder clutched in his hand so tight his knuckles had gone white. Conference room. Now. His voice was raw, like he'd been up all night smoking cigarettes he didn't smoke. I have the Tokyo call at 9. Now, Beulah. He never used her first name at work. Never. She followed him into the glass-walled conference room, very aware that the entire floor could see them. Minjun slammed the door hard enough that the glass shuddered. Didn't bother with the blinds. He threw the folder across the table. It skidded to a stop in front of her, contents spilling out. Photographs. Documents. FBI headers. And Nathaniel's face. Multiple angles. Surveillance shots. Your boyfriend is federal. Minjun's accent was thick, words coming fast. He's using you to destroy me. Beulah's world tilted sideways. She picked up one of the photos, Nathaniel in an FBI field office, badge visible, talking to agents. The date stamp read 6 months ago, right when he'd started pursuing her seriously. He approached you 8 months ago. Minjun paced like a caged animal. Contract lawyer was his cover. He's been running an undercover operation. The target is me, my business, my connections. And you're his access point. The words hit like body blows. Beulah stared at the documents, transcripts, surveillance reports, case files. All of it real. All of it damning. But 3 years of pain had taught her not to trust the man standing in front of her. You pushed me away. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. For 3 years, you treated me like I was nothing. You don't get to play protector now. I pushed you away to keep you alive. Minjun's roar made her flinch. Outside the glass walls, assistants looked up from their computers. Jackson moved closer to the door, hand at his hip where she knew he kept a gun. Minjun dragged a hand through his hair, breathing hard. When he spoke again, his voice shook. My uncle. In Seoul. After Vancouver, he sent me photos. Minjun pulled out his phone with trembling fingers, pulled up an old message. Look. The photo showed Beulah leaving the Vancouver hotel, early morning light, her dress wrinkled, hair messy. She looked happy. Soft. The way she'd felt waking up next to him. Below it, Korean text. Minjun's voice was hollow as he translated. End it or I'll end her. Your father died for loving the wrong woman. Learn from his mistakes. Beulah's throat closed. Your father was executed when I was 8. In front of me. Minjun's hands were fists now. He loved a woman from the wrong family. My uncle put a bullet in his head as a lesson. Love is weakness. Weakness gets you killed. He pulled up more messages. Months of them. Photos of Beulah at coffee shops, leaving work, at her apartment. All taken by people she'd never noticed. He made it clear. If I touched you again, if I showed you anything, he'd kill you. Not quick. Not clean. Minjun's voice cracked. So I made you hate me instead. Hate keeps you at a distance. Distance keeps you breathing. Beulah stared at the messages, the photos, the 3 years of surveillance. Evidence of protection that looked exactly like abandonment. So I wasn't worth the risk. Her voice came out flat. Dead. Got it. That's not Beulah. That's not what I'm saying. You chose fear. You chose what was easier for you. She stood, gathered the FBI documents, her purse. And now you're upset because someone else chose me. He doesn't choose you, he's using you. Maybe. Beulah met his eyes. But at least he looks at me. At least he touches me like I'm real. She walked out. Minjun didn't follow. That was the decision that would haunt him. Beulah drove to Nathaniel's apartment in a daze, Minjun's words circling like vultures. Federal. Using you. Undercover operation. She used her key, he'd given her one last month, a gesture that had felt significant. The apartment was quiet. Nathaniel's laptop sat open on the kitchen counter. She wasn't snooping. Wasn't looking. But the screen was awake, and her eyes caught the FBI seal before her brain could stop them. Case file. Operation Kingpin. Target, Kang Minjun. Her name appeared 17 times in the summary alone. Asset. Witness. Access point. Beulah. She spun. Nathaniel stood in the bedroom doorway, hair wet from a shower, face draining of color as he saw what she was looking at. I can explain. Are you FBI? Silence. Then, yes. The word hit like a fist. Beulah's knees went weak. She gripped the counter. Did you approach me for a case? Yes. Nathaniel moved closer, hands up like she was a spooked horse. But everything that came after Beulah, I fell in love with you for real. When? Her voice broke. When did I stop being an assignment? Nathaniel's face crumpled. I don't know. Maybe the night you told me about your mother. How she died because she couldn't afford insulin. How you held her hand while she slipped away. He took another step. Maybe the morning you brought me coffee and remembered I hate sugar. Maybe the first time you laughed at one of my terrible jokes. I can't pinpoint when you became everything, but you are. You're everything. Beulah wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. Instead, she pulled up files on her phone. Contracts she'd processed for Minjun, deals that looked clean on the surface, but smelled like blood underneath. Property acquisitions in cities where people went missing. Financial transfers that lined up with news reports of gang violence. He's killed people. She showed Nathaniel the evidence. I've been filing paperwork for murder. Nathaniel looked at the files, then at her. Run away with me. I'll quit the bureau. We'll disappear. New names, new lives. Just you and me. You'd give up your career? I'd give up everything. His hands framed her face. Beulah, I love you. Whatever I was when this started, that's not who I am now. I'm yours. Completely. She wanted to say yes. Wanted to run. Wanted to believe love could be simple. But Minjun's face flashed behind her eyes. His broken voice, I pushed you away to keep you alive. I need time. Beulah pulled away from Nathaniel's touch. I need to think. She left before he could argue. At home, she paced her apartment, mind spinning. 2 men. 2 liars. One loved her by pushing her away. One loved her by pulling her in with deception. What was the difference? Her stomach lurched suddenly. Violently. She barely made it to the bathroom before she vomited, heaving until nothing was left. When she finally looked up, her reflection stared back, pale, shaking, terrified. And she knew. The nausea. The exhaustion. The way her breasts had been tender for weeks. No. Her hand went to her stomach. Not now. Please, not now. But her body had already made the decision. Beulah bought 3 pregnancy tests at a gas station on the edge of town where no one knew her face. The bathroom smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, making her skin look gray, corpse-like. She lined up the tests on the sink like evidence at a crime scene. 2 minutes felt like 2 years. 3 pink lines. 3 positive results. 3 confirmations of the things she already knew in her bones. Pregnant. She did the math with shaking hands, pulling up her period tracker app. 2 months ago. Late October. The night after the Henderson deal closed. The memory came in fragments, sharp-edged and brutal. She'd gone to Minjun's office after everyone left, armed with 3 years of rage and a bottle of wine she'd never intended to drink. Found him at his desk, tie loose, looking exhausted in a way that made her furious, because how dare he be tired when she'd been bleeding out for years? I quit, she'd announced. He'd looked up, eyes hollow. No, you don't. Watch me. Beulah. Don't. She'd slammed her hands on his desk. Don't say my name like it means something. Don't pretend you care. I've always cared. His voice had been rough. Broken. Liar. He'd stood then, moved around the desk like a man walking toward his own execution. You want the truth? I think about Vancouver every single day. I think about how your skin felt. How you said my name. How I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me because I'm a coward. Stop. I dream about you. His hand had caught her wrist, gentle despite the violence in his eyes. Every night. I wake up reaching for you and you're not there because I sent you away. Then why? Her voice had cracked. Why did you do it? Instead of answering, he'd kissed her. Or she'd kissed him. The physics didn't matter, only the collision. Desperate. Furious. 3 years of want compressed into minutes. They'd destroyed his desk. Papers everywhere. His hands in her hair, her nails in his back, both of them gasping like drowning people finally breaking the surface. Afterward, she'd left without speaking. Pretended it never happened. But her body remembered. And now her body had proof. The problem. She'd been with Nathaniel for 6 months. They'd been careful mostly, but not always. The timing overlapped just enough to plant out in the soil of her certainty. Beulah stared at the tests, hand pressing against her still flat stomach. A baby, she whispered to the gas station mirror. Evidence of betrayal. No matter whose it is. She needed to tell someone. Nathaniel was the safer choice. The one who'd offered her escape. She threw the tests away and drove to meet him. 5,000 miles away in Seoul, Kang Dae-jung stood in his study, looking at Namsan Tower through bulletproof glass. His phone rang. Private line. He answered without greeting. The Carter woman might be pregnant. The voice was American, male, someone inside Minjun's organization. Dae-jung paid well for loyalty that wasn't. Confirmed. She bought tests. 3 of them. Gas station on Route 99. Dae-jung smiled, cold and calculating. Interesting timing. What do you want me to do? Watch her. Report everything. He hung up, mind already running scenarios. If the baby was Minjun's, it was leverage. Proof that his nephew still had the weakness that got his father killed. A grandchild could be controlled, raised properly, used. If it was the FBI agents, it was proof of Beulah's betrayal. Minjun would have to eliminate her. Problem solved. Either way, Dae-jung could use it. He made 2 phone calls. First, to book a flight to Seattle. Second, to Park So-yeon's father. We'll move up the wedding, he said. 72 hours. Time to remind his nephew what family meant. What duty required. Dae-jung looked at a photo on his desk, his brother, Minjun's father, smiling beside a woman who wasn't his arranged wife. Both of them dead now. Love was a disease. Dae-jung had spent 30 years being the cure. He packed for Seattle. Beulah met Nathaniel at Cary Park, neutral ground with a view of the city skyline. Gray clouds pressed down like a migraine. Rain threatened, but hadn't started. He was waiting on a bench, holding 2 coffees. Decaf for her, he'd noticed she'd stopped drinking caffeine weeks ago. The observation made her throat tight. Hey, he stood, kissed her forehead. You sounded upset on the phone. Beulah took the coffee she wouldn't drink. I need to tell you something. They sat. She couldn't look at him, so she looked at Seattle instead, Elliott Bay, the ferries, the life she'd built that was about to collapse. I'm pregnant. Nathaniel's coffee cup paused halfway to his mouth. You're 2 months, I think. Maybe. She forced herself to meet his eyes. There's something else. 2 months ago, I slept with Minjun. Once. In his office. I was angry and stupid and it meant nothing, but the timing. Nathaniel set down his coffee carefully. Too carefully. You don't know whose it is. No. The silence stretched. A dog barked somewhere. A child laughed. Normal life happening around them while theirs imploded. Then Nathaniel took her hand. I don't care. What? Whose it is biologically. His grip tightened. We'll raise this child together. We'll run tonight. New names, new lives. I'll be this baby's father in every way that matters. His hand moved to her stomach, reverent. Protective. Beulah wanted to believe him. Wanted to fall into the safety he offered. But she saw it, just for a second, a flash in his eyes. FBI calculation. Witness. Leverage. The look of a man solving a case. You're still thinking like an agent. Her voice came out cold. Nathaniel flinched. No. I saw it. Just now. You're thinking about how this helps your case. Beulah, listen, he pulled his hand back, ran it through his hair. The gesture screamed guilt. My supervisor gave me an ultimatum yesterday. Bring you in as a witness in 48 hours or face prosecution for obstruction. For sleeping with someone connected to a target. Her stomach dropped. So this is... No. God, no. He grabbed both her hands. I destroyed the files. All of them. Wiped my case notes, erased surveillance footage, burned my credentials in my kitchen sink last night. I'm throwing away my entire career. The Bureau will prosecute me, probably. I don't care. I choose you. Nathaniel. I love you. Whatever I was when this started, I'm not that anymore. I'm yours. Beulah's eyes burned. She wanted to say something. Wanted to. A black Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. Expensive. Diplomatic plates. Minjun's car. But when the driver opened the door, it wasn't Minjun who stepped out first. It was an older Korean man in a suit that probably cost more than Beulah's yearly salary. Cold eyes. Brutal mouth. The kind of face that gave orders and expected blood. Behind him, Minjun emerged. And behind him, a woman. She was beautiful, stunning, actually, in designer clothes that whispered wealth. Korean, early 30s, perfect posture. She moved like royalty. The older man's voice carried across the parking lot, loud enough for everyone to hear. Nephew, I've brought Park So-yeon. Your bride. The wedding is in 72 hours. Minjun's eyes found Beulah across the park. For 1 second, she saw everything in his face, trapped, desperate, terrified. Then his expression smoothed into something else. Resigned. Almost relieved. Beulah's world ended quietly. No explosion. Just a whimper. He'd chosen. Again. Duty over her. Safety over love. The rain finally started. Cold. Merciless. Nathaniel's arm came around her shoulders, pulling her close. And across the park, Minjun watched the man he hated most hold the woman he loved most, and did absolutely nothing to stop it. Minjun's penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that made Seattle look small. His uncle stood at those windows now, hands behind his back, surveying the city like a general planning conquest. So-yeon sat on the couch, silent, perfect, a chess piece waiting to be moved. "Marry her," Dae-jung said without turning around. "Solidify the Seoul alliance." Wednesday. "I've already made arrangements." Minjun stood behind his bar, pouring whiskey he wouldn't drink. "And if I refuse?" "Beulah Carter dies." Dae-jung turned, smiling. "Cold. Certain. I have people watching her right now." He pulled out his phone, swiped through photos like he was showing vacation pictures. Beulah at the park with Nathaniel. Beulah at her apartment, lights on in her kitchen. Beulah at the FBI agent's place, visible through his bedroom window. "Very thorough," Dae-jung continued. "I know what she eats for breakfast. I know she takes her coffee black. I know she's carrying a child that might be yours." Minjun's hand tightened on his glass. Don't what? Don't state facts." Dae-jung's smile widened. "You made the same mistake your father did. Love. Weakness. It's genetic, apparently. My father loved someone. That's not a mistake. It got him executed." Dae-jung moved closer, voice dropping. "I put the bullet in his head myself. He begged at the end. Not for his life, for hers. I killed her anyway. Slowly. Made sure he watched first." Minjun's vision went red at the edges. Every muscle screamed to put his hands around his uncle's throat. But Dae-jung knew it. Smiled at it. "You have the same eyes he had," the older man observed. "Right before he died. Helpless rage. Useless love." He paused. "So here's your choice. Marry So-yeon. Honor your family. Or watch me do to Beulah what I did to your father's whore." The room tilted. Minjun forced breath into his lungs. "And if I marry her? Beulah lives." Dae-jung's voice went almost gentle. "I'll even set her up. Money. New city. Protection. She'll never know it came from you. The child she's carrying will be provided for. Comfortable life. Safe life. Generous. Practical. You can't love her, but you can keep her alive. That's something, isn't it?" Minjun looked at So-yeon. She met his eyes, and in them he saw the same trapped desperation he felt. "How long?" Minjun asked. "How long have you been watching her?" 3 years. Since Vancouver." Dae-jung pulled up older photos, Beulah leaving the hotel, smiling, soft, happy. "Long enough to know she's your weakness. Weakness must be managed, not indulged." Minjun wanted to smash something. Everything. Instead, he said, "I'll marry So-yeon." Dae-jung nodded, satisfied. "Wednesday. I'll make the arrangements. But you touch Beulah and I'll kill you myself. That's my line." His uncle laughed. "Fair enough." Beulah found the coffee shop by accident. Tucked away in Capitol Hill, the kind of place that served oat milk lattes and played indie music too quietly. She was drowning in her head when someone sat across from her. Park So-yeon, Minjun's bride. Up close, she was even more beautiful. But her eyes were sad in a way makeup couldn't hide. "I know who you are," So-yeon said. Her English was perfect, accent slight. "May I sit?" Beulah should have said no. Should have left. Instead, "Sure." So-yeon ordered tea. They sat in awkward silence until it arrived. "I've seen the way he looks at you in photos," So-yeon finally said. "He's never looked at me at all." Beulah's chest tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." So-yeon's smile was gentle. "Knowing. This marriage is my prison, too. My family sold me to secure an alliance. I had a lover in Seoul, a woman. Ji-woo. We were going to run away together. What happened? They found out. Gave me the same choice Minjun has now." So-yeon's voice didn't waver. "Duty or death?" "I chose duty. Ji-woo chose death. Pills. I found her. God. I'm sorry. Don't be. Be smart." So-yeon leaned forward. "Kong Dae-jung doesn't make empty threats. If you love Minjun, disappear. Change your name. Leave the country. It's the only way you both survive." Beulah's hand went to her stomach. "It's not that simple." So-yeon's eyes followed the gesture. Understanding flickered. "A baby. Maybe. Then definitely disappear." Dae-young will use that child as a leash. Forever. They sat together, two women trapped by powerful men, drinking overpriced coffee while their lives burned. When So-yeon left, she squeezed Beulah's hand. I hope you choose better than I did. Beulah went to Minjun's office that afternoon. Needed to see his face. Needed to hear him say it. She arrived as Dae-young was leaving. He smiled at her, cold recognition in his eyes, and said nothing. The door to Minjun's office was cracked. Voices carried. Wednesday, Minjun said. I'll marry So-yeon. Make the arrangements. Beulah's world stopped. She didn't hear the rest. Didn't hear, but you touch Beulah, and I'll kill you myself. She only heard him choosing duty. Again. I was never going to be enough. She ran. Out of the building, into rain that had started again, soaking through her coat. Drove to Nathaniel's apartment with tears blurring the highway. He opened the door and she collapsed into his arms. He's marrying someone else, she sobbed. His uncle brought her from Seoul. Weddings Wednesday. He agreed. He chose duty again. Nathaniel held her while she shattered. His hands in her hair, his voice murmuring comfort, his body solid when hers was falling apart. I'll testify, Beulah said into his shoulder. Against Minjun. Give me witness protection. For me and my baby. I'll burn his entire empire. She felt Nathaniel tense. This was what the Bureau wanted. What his supervisor demanded. The case that would salvage his career. But it would destroy her in the process. Beulah, his voice cracked. Please. She pulled back, looked at him with devastated eyes. Help me disappear. Help me hurt him the way he's hurt me. Nathaniel's face showed his war. The agent versus the man. Duty versus love. Finally, he pulled out his phone. I'm bringing her in, he said to whoever answered. And Beulah closed her eyes, feeling nothing at all. The FBI field office smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. Beulah sat in a gray room with gray furniture, staring at paperwork that would end Minjun's life. Her hand shook as she reached for the pen agent Sarah Reeves held out black government issue, the kind used to sign away futures. Full immunity, Reeves said. She was 45, steel gray hair pulled back tight, eyes that had seen too much and believed too little. New identity. Witness protection. You and your child will disappear. Kang Minjun will never find you. Beulah's fingers closed around the pen. It felt heavy. Final. Nathaniel stood against the wall, arms crossed, face unreadable. But she could feel his conflict radiating like heat. We've been building this case for 4 years, Reeves continued, spreading documents across the table. The Henderson deal, the Vancouver casino, the Seoul connections. We have everything except the testimony that ties it together. That's you. Beulah looked at the files. Saw Minjun's face in surveillance photos. Saw her own face, entering his office, leaving his building, sitting at her desk like she didn't know she was filing paperwork for murder. The Chicago connections, Reeves added casually. Beulah's hand stopped. What Chicago connections? Reeves paused, something shifting in her expression. She pulled up a different file. Older. The photo on top showed a woman with kind eyes and a tired smile. Diana Carter. Beulah's mother. What is this? Beulah's voice came out strangled. Your mother wasn't a random casualty of a broken healthcare system. Reeves spoke gently now, like delivering a terminal diagnosis. She witnessed a money exchange in Chicago. July 2017. $2 million in cash, tied to Kang Dae-jung's operation. The room tilted. Beulah gripped the table. My mother died from diabetes. Complications. She couldn't afford. She was murdered. Reeves spread out evidence like tarot cards revealing a terrible future that had already happened. Staged to look like untreated diabetes. But look. Autopsy photos. Beulah's stomach lurched. Injection marks on her mother's arms, too many, wrong placement, inconsistent with her diabetes routine. These aren't insulin injections, Reeves explained. These are something else. We believe potassium chloride. Causes cardiac arrest. Looks natural in diabetics. Surveillance footage next. Grainy gas station camera showing a Korean man leaving her mother's apartment building. Date stamp, July 15, 2017. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. Her mother was found dead the next morning. Financial records. Reeves pulled up bank statements. $50,000 paid to a Chicago crew 3 days after your mother's death. The payment traces back to a shell company in Seoul. Daejeong's Shell Company. Beulah couldn't breathe. The room was too small. Too hot. My mother was murdered. Not a question. A truth reshaping her entire life. We could never prove Daejeong ordered it directly. Reeves hesitated. But someone else has been investigating independently for 3 months. She opened her laptop, turned it toward Beulah. Minjun's private files. Hundreds of pages. Witness statements from Chicago. Financial trails traced through 6 countries. Autopsy analysis from 3 independent pathologists. Security footage enhanced and timestamped. The folder was labeled, "For Beulah Justice." "He's been building a case against his own uncle," Reeves said quietly. "Planning to hand you everything. Proof. Justice." But Daejeong's arrival in Seattle forced his hand. Nathaniel pushed off the wall. "You knew about this? We've had surveillance on Minjun's private server for 2 months." Reeves didn't look apologetic. He was planning to give this to Beulah directly. He's been collecting evidence, interviewing witnesses, spending his own money to find the truth. Whatever else he is, he loves her enough to avenge her mother. Beulah stared at the files. Page after page of Minjun's handwriting. Notes. Questions. Leads. 3 months of work. 3 months of him investigating her mother's murder while she planned to destroy him. He knew, she whispered. He knew what Daejeong did. And he's been quietly building a cage for the man who killed your mother. Reeves leaned forward. But we need him to get to Daejeong. His testimony. His inside knowledge. Beulah looked at the immunity papers. The pen's still in her hand. She set it down. "I won't testify against Minjun." "Beulah," Nathaniel started. "But I'll help you get Daejeong." She met Reeves's eyes. "Wire me. I'll get him to confess himself." "That's suicide." Nathaniel moved closer. "If he suspects, if he even thinks you're working with us." "My mother died because powerful men thought she didn't matter." Beulah stood, voice steady for the first time in days. "I matter. My baby matters. And I'm done being afraid of men who think they can erase me." Reeves studied her. "You understand what you're asking?" Daejeong is careful. Paranoid. Getting him to confess on tape requires pushing him into a corner. Corners make dangerous men do violent things. "I understand." Silence. Then Reeves nodded. "There's a wedding rehearsal dinner tonight. Private restaurant. Daejeong, Minjun, the bride, all his associates. High security, but we can plant agents nearby. You'll need to get him talking. Make him angry enough to slip." "How?" "Accuse him of killing your mother. In public. In front of his nephew. Make it personal. Make it impossible for him to walk away without responding." Reeves pulled out a wire, small, sophisticated, nearly invisible. "We'll be listening. The moment you're in danger, we move in." Nathaniel grabbed Beulah's arm. "This is insane. Let us handle it. We'll build the case another way." "There is no other way." Reeves's voice was hard. "Daejeong leaves for Seoul tomorrow morning. We have tonight. That's it." Beulah looked at Nathaniel. Saw his fear. His love. The way he'd burned his career trying to save her. "I need to do this," she said softly. "For my mother. For my baby. For me." He searched her face. Finally nodded. Devastated but accepting. Reeves handed Beulah the wire. "We go live at 7 p.m. 2 hours. Can you be ready?" "Yes." Beulah paused. "But I need 5 minutes alone with Minjun first. Before the operation. That's a security risk. I need to hear the truth from him. About my mother. About everything." Beulah's voice didn't waver. 5 minutes. Or I don't do this." Reeves considered. 5 minutes. In his penthouse. We'll have surveillance, but we won't listen. After that, you're ours." Beulah nodded. Nathaniel walked her to the door. In the hallway, he pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. "Come back alive," he whispered. "Please." "I will." She was lying. They both knew it. But sometimes love meant letting someone walk into fire anyway. Beulah drove to Minjun's penthouse alone, wire hidden under her blouse, 5 minutes on a countdown clock, and her mother's ghost-riding shotgun. Beulah used her key, the one she'd never returned, kept in her wallet like a talisman for 3 years. Minjun's penthouse was dark except for his study. Light spilled from the doorway, cutting a path through expensive emptiness. She found him surrounded by files about her mother's death. Papers covered his desk, the floor, pinned to a corkboard like he was hunting serial killers. Photos of Diana Carter. Autopsy reports. Bank statements. Witness interviews. A map of Chicago with locations marked in red. Minjun sat in the middle of it all, tie gone, sleeves rolled up, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He looked up when she entered. No surprise. Just exhausted acceptance. Why didn't you tell me? Beulah's voice cracked. Minjun stood slowly. Because I knew you. You'd go after him yourself and get killed. I needed proof strong enough to cage him before you knew the truth. My mother was murdered by my uncle. I've known for 3 months. His voice was raw, broken. I've been collecting evidence, building a case. I was going to give you everything. Justice. Proof. But he came to Seattle and I ran out of time. Beulah stepped over files, moving closer. The FBI knows. About Nathaniel. About the operation. I was going to testify against you. Minjun flinched, but didn't look away. I know. You know? Jackson's been watching you. Keeping you safe. He told me you went to the field office. Minjun's hands curled into fists. I don't blame you. I've given you every reason to destroy me. I'm wearing a wire. Beulah touched her blouse. Right now. There's a plan. Tonight at the rehearsal dinner, I'm going to confront Daejung. Get him to confess about my mother. The FBI will be listening. No. Minjun moved fast, grabbed her shoulders. He'll kill you the moment he suspects. Then help me. Beulah met his eyes. Wear a wire too. We'll box him in together. He can't kill both of us in a public restaurant. You don't understand what he's capable of. I understand he murdered my mother. Her voice broke. I understand he's been controlling your life with death threats. I understand you pushed me away because you were 8 years old when they executed your father, and you've been terrified of losing someone ever since. Minjun's face crumpled. I pushed you away because loving you meant signing your death warrant. My father loved the wrong woman, and they made me watch while they shot him. I was 8. I won't watch you die, Beulah. I can't. You don't get to choose my safety over my agency. Tears ran down her face now. You don't get to love me by erasing me. You don't get to avenge my mother without telling me. I was protecting you. I don't need protection. I need truth. I need choice. She grabbed his shirt, pulled him close. I need you, Minjun. Even when you're terrified. Even when you're broken. I need you to trust me enough to let me stand beside you instead of behind you. His hands framed her face. Trembling. Gentle. I have loved you every day for 3 years, he whispered. Loved you while hating myself for not being brave enough to choose you. When I saw you with him, it wasn't jealousy, it was grief. Because he could give you what I couldn't. Safety. I don't want safety. Beulah pressed her forehead to his. I want you. They kissed. Desperate. Honest. Everything Vancouver should have been raw and real and refusing to hide. His hand found her stomach. The baby is yours. I know. I've known since the moment I saw the test. Minjun made a broken sound, half sob, half prayer. He dropped to his knees, pressed his face against her stomach. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything. For Vancouver. For 3 years of pushing you away. For not being brave enough. Beulah ran her fingers through his hair. Get up. We don't have time. He stood. Wiped his eyes. Became the man who ran an empire again. We have 1 hour before the dinner, she said. The FBI will give you a wire too. We confront Dae-young together. And if it goes wrong, then we go down fighting. She took his hand. Together. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind where they don't list prices and politicians make deals over aged whiskey. Dae-young sat at the head of the table, So-yeon beside him, Minjun's associates scattered around like pieces on a chessboard. The rehearsal dinner for a wedding that would never happen. Outside, an FBI surveillance van monitored every word. Nathaniel and Agent Reeves wore headsets, listening. Minjun arrived first, wire hidden, every muscle tense. Then Beulah walked in. Uninvited. Unwanted. Wearing a red dress that screamed defiance. The room went silent. You killed my mother. She walked straight to Dae-young, voice carrying. He smiled. Cold. Amused. I'm sorry. Diana Carter. Chicago, 2017. You had her murdered because she witnessed a money drop. Beulah's hands shook, but her voice didn't. You staged it to look like diabetes complications. Daejung's smile froze. You're confused. Uncle. Minjun stood. Tell her the truth. Tell her about Chicago. Diana Carter. The 50,000 you paid to a Chicago crew. Nephew, you've been drinking. I have evidence. Minjun pulled out his phone. Witness statements. Financial records. Autopsy analysis. Everything. Daejung's eyes went flat. Calculating. He reached for his own phone. On the screen, live footage. A sniper scope trained on someone sitting in a van. Nathaniel. In the surveillance van. Very clever, Dae-young said softly. Both of you wearing wires. The FBI listening. But I came prepared. He looked at Minjun. Nephew, choose. Your woman's love or her lover's life. Remove the wires or the FBI agent dies. 30 seconds. Beulah's blood went cold. Then So-yeon stood. I've been recording everything. She held up her phone. And streaming it live to Korean authorities. Your confession. Your threat. All of it. Daejung's face twisted. You stupid. The restaurant doors exploded inward. FBI agents. Korean police. Chaos. But Dae-young moved fast. Gun from his jacket. Aimed at Beulah. Minjun stepped in front of her. The shot cracked. Beulah screamed. But agents tackled Dae-young before he could fire again. The bullet had gone wide, shattered a window. Minjun pulled Beulah into his arms as agents swarmed. Dae-young fought, cursing, but they dragged him down. Before they took him away, he looked at Beulah. This isn't over, he whispered. Then he was gone. Minjun held her while she shook. While the restaurant erupted. While their world changed forever. It's over, he murmured into her hair. It's over. But they both knew it wasn't. Some wars never really end. 9 months later, Seattle Presbyterian Hospital smelled like antiseptic and new beginnings. Beulah gripped Minjun's hand hard enough to break bones. Labor pain rolled through her in waves that made her understand why they called it that, relentless, drowning, pulling her under. You're doing amazing, Minjun whispered, terrified and awestruck. He'd faced down killers without flinching, but watching Beulah in pain unmade him completely. I swear to God, Minjun, if you say that one more time. Then the doctor said, one more push. And their daughter came into the world screaming. Diana Minjun Carter Kong. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Dark eyes like her father. Determined chin like her mother. Perfect. They placed her on Beulah's chest, tiny and furious and alive. Beulah sobbed. Minjun stood frozen, staring at his daughter like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. Hold her, Beulah said softly. Minjun's hands shook as he took Diana. She was so small. Fragile. He looked down at her face, eyes barely open, fist curled against his chest, and cried for the first time since he was 8 years old. She's perfect, he whispered. You're perfect. How did I deserve this? Beulah reached up, touched his face. You didn't. You chose it. There's a difference. Nathaniel visited that afternoon. He stood in the doorway, keeping cordial distance, grief healed into something softer. She's beautiful, he said, looking at Diana sleeping in Minjun's arms. You're good together. Minjun met his eyes. You loved her when I couldn't. Thank you. Nathaniel nodded. I've been transferred. FBI Cybercrime Division in D.C. Fresh start. Good luck, Beulah said, meaning it. He left without looking back. Some endings were kind that way. So-yeon's letter arrived with flowers. Beulah read it aloud while Minjun changed Diana's diaper, badly, making her laugh. I'm in Seoul, testifying against both our families. Dating openly now. Her name is Jiwoo. Different Jiwoo, but maybe that's fate. Freedom is terrifying and worth it. Jackson showed up with too many flowers and a teddy bear bigger than the baby. Boss man, you look ridiculous, he teased, watching Minjun struggle with a onesie. Shut up and help me. The room filled with soft laughter. Beulah nursing Diana while Minjun brought her water. Jackson taking photos. A family assembled from broken pieces. I thought love meant being chosen, Beulah said quietly. But it's choosing. Every day. Even when it's hard. Minjun kissed her forehead. Especially when it's hard. They were preparing to leave when a courier delivered an envelope. Inside, photos of Diana. Through the hospital window. Impossibly close. And a note in Korean. Minjun's face drained of color as he read it. What does it say? Beulah's voice stayed steady even as fear bloomed. I have nephews. They'll finish what I started. She'll never be safe. Minjun looked at her, devastated. It's from Dae-young. Sent from prison. Today, the threat hung between them. Real. Immediate. Beulah looked at her daughter. Then at Minjun. Then we teach her to fight. Minjun's hand found hers. Together. Together. They left the hospital as a family. Minjun's arm around Beulah, her carrying Diana wrapped in a pink blanket. Seattle stretched before them, gray sky, endless rain, home. The threat remained. Dae-young's nephews. Future battles. Danger that wouldn't end. But Diana's tiny fist gripped her father's finger, holding tight. And they walked forward anyway. Not because they weren't afraid, but because love meant choosing each other, even in the face of fear. Every single day. Dear viewers, what do you think about this story? What part stuck out for you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. See you in the next one.